There's a phrase you probably heard 1,000 times. If you wanted to, he would. And on the surface, it sounds simple, almost harsh, almost dismissive, because part of you wants to argue with it. You want to say, but he was busy, but he had trauma, but he wasn't raised with emotional tools, but he did try, sometimes. And here's the truth. This phrase isn't meant to shame you. It's meant to wake you up. Because the real question isn't whether he wanted to or not. The real question is, why were you willing to accept so little and call it love? This episode isn't about blaming him. It's about understanding you. The part of you that stayed. The part of you that hoped. The part of you that adjusted your standards to survive the relationship. If you ever felt confused about why you tolerate inconsistency, emotional distance, or crumbs of effort, this conversation is for you. Many women were taught that asking for consistency, communication, effort, presence is too much. So when someone gives you occasional attention, inconsistent effort, emotional availability on their terms, love that feels conditional, you start telling yourself, at least he's not abusive. At least he texts back sometimes. At least he shows up when he can. But love is not supposed to feel like a negotiation. You're not supposed to shrink your needs to make someone more comfortable about staying. When you lower your standards, you don't become more lovable, you become more convenient. And convenience is not the same thing as commitment. People don't accept the bare minimum because they're weak. They accept it because of what they were taught to expect. If you grew up emotionally neglected, having to earn attention, being the understanding one, being praised for being low maintenance, being told not to ask for too much, then inconsistency feels familiar. Distance feels normal. Effort feels like a bonus, not a baseline. So when someone gives you just enough to keep you attached, you don't see the red flags, you see potential. Your nervous system isn't seeking healthy love, it's seeking familiar patterns. If he wanted to, he would. It's about pattern, not excuses. This phrase isn't about perfection, it's about patterns. Someone who wants to be present shows up consistently, makes time without you begging, communicates without disappearing, follows through without you reminding them, prioritizing the relationship without you carrying it. You don't need to be perfect to show effort. You need willingness. And when someone repeatedly shows you that effort is optional, the truth is not that they're incapable. It's that the relationship does not hold enough weight for them to change their behavior. And that's painful. But it's also clarity. People don't stay in low effort relationships because they don't know better. They stay because hope is powerful. Emotional attachment is real. The bond feels deep even when the behavior is shallow. Leaving feels like losing the future you imagined. You weren't staying for who he was, you were staying for who you hoped he would become. And hope can make you loyal to a version of someone that doesn't exist. When you accept the bare minimum long enough, something happens inside of you. You start doubting your needs, dismissing your feelings, rationalizing neglect, feeling guilty for wanting more, telling yourself you're asking for too much. Over time, your standards don't just lower, your self-worth erodes. Not because you're weak, but because your nervous system is constantly adapting to emotional scarcity. You become grateful for crumbs, and crumbs are not nourishment. Healthy effort is not dramatic, it's consistent. It looks like reliability, follow through, emotional presence, accountability, clear communication, mutual investment. You don't have to convince someone to treat you well. You don't have to teach someone to show up. You don't need to be more patient to receive basic respect. You need to choose people who already operate at that level. The turning point comes when you stop trying to be chosen and start choosing. You stop asking, how do I make him want me? And you start asking, does this dynamic actually meet my emotional needs? This is the moment you realize love is not supposed to be something you endure, it's something that supports you. And if a relationship requires you to abandon yourself to maintain it, that relationship is not love, it's survival. You didn't ask for too much. You were asking the wrong person. You weren't too emotional. You were emotionally aware. You weren't too needy. You were asking for connection. You weren't hard to love. You were trying to be loved in a dynamic that could not offer you what you needed. There is nothing wrong with wanting effort. There is something costly about tolerating absence. If this episode spoke to you, take a moment to reflect. Where do you normalize less than you deserve? Where do you shrink your needs to keep someone comfortable? Awareness isn't about regret, it's about release. You don't need to punish yourself for what you accepted before you knew better. You get to choose differently now. If you're in a season of relearning your worth, or redefining what effort and consistency look like, or breaking patterns you didn't create and don't want to repeat, you're not behind. You're becoming aligned. And alignment always caused the version of relationships that require you to be smaller. If this resonated, let it be your reminder. You don't need to convince someone to value you. You're not asking for too much, you're asking for what's healthy. And choosing that is how you break the cycle. And I am very proud of you for being here today. So let's keep growing and healing together, and I'll see you here tomorrow. Bye.